HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Innovation Blind Spot: Why We Back the Wrong Ideas and What to Do About It, by Ross Baird. Read by Patrick Lawlor. Forward. In 2013, I met Jen Medbury, the founder and CEO of a young edtech company called Kickboard. Jen was a software developer who had also spent 3 years as a middle school math teacher. She developed a tool that analyzed reliable data on each student to provide teachers with actionable insight. Today, Kickboard serves more than 200 schools in 20 states. One might assume that Kickboard's growth was nurtured by a Silicon Valley accelerator, spurred by Sand Hill Road venture capitalist dollars, and built by Stanford engineers. In fact, Kickboard was started in the heart of New Orleans. And Kickboard is not alone. The destruction that Hurricane Katrina brought about led to a citywide surge in charter schools, bringing passionate teachers, administrators, and education reformers together and paving the way for a burgeoning ed tech industry in the city. New Orleans took a crisis and turned it into an opportunity. Pre-Katrina, only 30% of schools had a passing grade. The reinvention of the New Orleans school system has led to a reimagination of how teachers should teach and how students can learn, and the city has become a hotbed of startup innovation. Jen is one of thousands of entrepreneurs I've met as I've crisscrossed the country over the past several years, first as chair of the Startup America Partnership, and then as I've toured the country on Rise of the Rest bus tours organized by my investment firm, Revolution. We've traveled 6,000 miles and visited 26 cities so far. It has been eye-opening to see how many cities are spawning startup cultures and incubating great startups. Meeting so many entrepreneurs in so many places has inspired me to redouble my efforts to do what I can to be sure that everybody everywhere has a shot at the American dream. It's not just about creating companies. It's also about creating the jobs that will propel the communities in which they operate. And these entrepreneurs, in what some call flyover country, are spawning breakthrough companies in sectors that matter most to us. The local expertise available in Rise of the Rest cities bodes well for the revolution that is accelerating in big industries such as healthcare, agriculture, and financial services. Ross Baird shares a commitment to supporting entrepreneurs in unexpected places. Ross and the firm he founded, Village Capital, have helped us shine a spotlight on great founders building impressive businesses throughout the country. Ross has joined us on each of our Rise of the Rest bus tours, and it was Ross who introduced me to Jen and Kickboard. Ross has been a pioneer when it comes to blending profit and purpose. Historically, what's good for business and what's good for society have fallen into, as Ross likes to put it, two different pockets. But Village Capital actively invests in the sectors most ripe for disruption. These impact-focused startup companies have the potential to change the way billions of people live every day. I first met Ross in 2014 when we served on a national commission convened by the University of Virginia to answer the question, "Can startups save the American dream?" I was struck by his hands-on approach to empowering entrepreneurs, no matter their background or geography, from the bottom up. Today, I see an innovation economy that too often works top-down. The best-connected people in the most resource-rich places are awash in opportunity, but most aspiring entrepreneurs don't have a chance. Investors everywhere have blind spots, and as a result, we're overlooking most great ideas. 3/4 of venture capital goes to founders in just 3 states, New York, California, and Massachusetts. Some 10% goes to women founders and just 1% to African Americans. That's not right, and it's not smart. We need everybody on the playing field if we're going to remain the most innovative, entrepreneurial nation in the world. Ross's work has been intentionally focused on democratizing access for entrepreneurs from all backgrounds, and by changing the paradigm in terms of how investors invest. Village Capital empowers entrepreneurs themselves to make the investing decisions. It's a unique approach that I hope others emulate, as it can help unearth breakthrough ideas and also help level the playing field. We're living in turbulent times. The world is changing rapidly, and as we witnessed from the 2016 election results, many people feel like they are being left behind in our economy. And many people are. We need to find and promote entrepreneurs and innovators everywhere, not just those who went to the best schools, know the right people, and live in the most developed innovation cities. We need more founders from diverse backgrounds, more companies from places outside the hotbeds of Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston, and a better understanding of how to build companies that deliver a holistic view of value to their shareholders, to customers, and to society. In my 2015 book, The Third Wave, I highlighted some of these companies. We're going to need more entrepreneurs like Kristen Richmond, CEO of Revolution Foods, who is changing food systems by improving the nutritional quality of school lunches across America. And we'll need more companies like Shinola, which is rewriting Detroit's story by creating quality manufacturing jobs in the middle of a once great community that is again on the rise. I hope these profit plus purpose companies soon join the pantheon of iconic American entrepreneurial success stories. I have no doubt that the trends Ross writes about in this book will gain steam. I have faith that the rest will rise, and we'll see new cities yielding the next great group of entrepreneurs. I am confident that entrepreneurship will be more inclusive, and that the faces of famous entrepreneurs you'll see over the next couple of decades will look very different from the average venture capital firm's portfolio today. Most importantly, I know that as the Internet continues to integrate with our daily life, startups will matter more to the things we do every day, how we eat, how we learn, how we live, than ever before. We saw tremendous innovation in the Internet's first and second waves, but we've still just scratched the surface in terms of what's possible. What remains to be seen is what communities, what firms, what investors, and what countries will benefit from these changes. The jury is out because it all depends on what happens next. The people who embrace these changes will have better economies and more thriving societies. The people who stick to old patterns will fall behind. If you want to be a part of the success of the next wave of entrepreneurship, read on. In The Innovation Blind Spot, Ross shares a unique and invaluable viewpoint on what's broken in the innovation economy and offers a compelling playbook for how to fix it. He will inspire you with stories of groundbreaking entrepreneurs, share unique and unexpected approaches to bringing more people into the entrepreneurial world, and, most importantly, help you identify your own blind spots so that collectively we can make sure that every entrepreneur with a great idea, no matter who they are or where they live, really does have a shot at the American dream. Steve Case. Introduction. I'm going to assume two things about you. First, I'll assume that you're someone who is trying to do the right thing every day and wants to play a part in making the world a better place. Second, I'll assume that you believe that capitalism and the free markets and individual liberties it represents is the best way for our global society to function. Even if you're critical of parts of the capitalist system today, You still believe, to borrow Winston Churchill's line about democracy, that it's the worst system, except for all the others that have been tried. But huge parts of the system aren't working. New firm creation in the United States is at a 30-year low. The biggest investment firms in the country's wealthiest cities aren't delivering the best financial returns. And the structural problems in the system make all our other problems nearly impossible to solve. Even though we have more computing power in our pockets today than the entire world did 50 years ago, our food systems struggle to feed the world's growing population, and our health and education infrastructure can't take care of the current generation, let alone prepare the next one to lead. We look to innovation, which I'm going to define as new ideas, to help figure out solutions to these problems. When I say innovation, your mind might jump to Silicon Valley-style technology, and we'll spend a lot of time on that topic in this book. But innovation can be anything: a better way for your company to work, a new idea that can help your community, an amazing song or piece of art you create. While a daily skim of Forbes or Fortune might make it seem as though we live in a golden age of innovation, most entrepreneurs today don't see it that way. In this book, I'll argue that most great innovations don't see the light of day, for reasons entirely of our own making. The idea that entrepreneurship is a meritocracy is a myth. In the real world, money flows to the ideas that are the most convenient to find or the most familiar, not necessarily those that are the best. Simply put, the blind spots in the way we innovate, the way we nurture, support, and invest in new ideas, make all our other problems even harder to solve. The blind spots in our innovation process. I've always been an entrepreneur, pursuing and building new ideas. I formally joined this conversation in 2009 when I founded a venture capital firm, Village Capital. I'm going to explore innovation from the vantage point of venture capital because it is a helpful proxy for how we pick which big ideas we value as a society. Venture capital is the most visible way that we invest in future ideas. Venture capital funds often have billions of dollars under management, and the very smart people who run these funds are in a position to pick the next big idea, knowing that many will fail, but some will win big. This structure largely dictates how our economy picks which ideas will drive the next generation. Entrepreneurs funded by venture capitalists launched 5 of the 6 most valuable companies in the world: Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon. The 6th company, Berkshire Hathaway, is a very large investment firm. You can innovate in other ways, for example, in philanthropy, inside your own company, or in government. As we'll discuss, these areas have their own issues, but perhaps most relevant to you is that they all share many of the same blind spots that exist within the venture capital industry. As you'll see, innovation today suffers from 3 major blind spots. The first has to do with how we pick new ideas, the second with where we find new ideas and who we invest in, and the third with why we invest in new ideas to begin with. Each blind spot opens onto the next like a set of nesting dolls, and they cause us to miss out on massive untapped potential in innovation, untapped companies, untapped markets, and entire untapped industries. Let's start with the first blind spot, which centers on process: how we invest. 1. One size fits all. There's an ancient Greek myth of a demigod, Procrustes, who had a large house on the main road outside Athens. Hospitality was perhaps the most important value in ancient Greece. The Trojan War was launched on account of an ungracious host, and Procrustes was legendary for hosting guests and providing a bed that fit each guest perfectly. But he had a morbid secret. He would cut off the limbs of the guests who were too tall, and he would stretch the limbs of the guests who were too short. We need to make decisions all the time, but the average human brain can only remember 3 or 4 things simultaneously. Facing an onslaught of information, we often use shortcuts, like one-size-fits-all structures, to make the best decisions we can. In this book, we'll examine the rules and patterns we use to make decisions. These rules can sometimes be helpful. Too often, though, they limit our ability to innovate. As author and economist Nassim Nicholas Taleb points out, we don't notice how we are constraining ourselves and our investments by applying one principle to all of them. We seem unaware of this backward fitting, much like tailors who take great pride in delivering the perfectly fitting suit, but do so by surgically altering the limbs of their customers. In this book, I'll outline how the one-size-fits-all structure currently being used to discover and support new innovations most easily identified with venture capital isn't necessarily the best structure for most ideas. In fact, a core piece of how we invest is a holdover from the 19th century whaling industry, and its universal applicability has rarely been challenged. The result? The venture capital way of decision-making doesn't always find the best ideas, regardless of whether they look like a New England whale or a Silicon Valley unicorn. 2. It's not what you know, it's who you know. The second blind spot happens interpersonally and has to do with where our society's investments go. This starts with who we invest in. We tend to look for innovation by investing in the people, places, and industries we know. The people who look like us and are in our same tribe because of where they grew up or the school they attended. In 2015, 78% of startup investment in the United States and half of all startup investment in the world went to 3 states: Massachusetts, New York, and California. Less than 5% of investments in the United States went to female founders, and less than 1% went to companies started by African Americans and Latinos. From 2007 to 2012, 10% of all startup financing in the world went to graduates of just 6 universities: Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, MIT, NYU, and UPenn. Free market economists would maintain that New York City and San Francisco get more money because they're more productive than other places. But in reality, it's not what you know, it's who you know drives resource allocation. As I'll discuss later on, people pick ideas from people close to them and similar to them, rather than what might be the best idea. Most great ideas never even get on investors' radar. 3. Two-pocket thinking. The third blind spot has to do with why we invest, and the self-defeating barriers we put up between what we do and what we value. I once pitched a successful businesswoman and philanthropist, let's call her Jane, on investing in an education technology company. This business was growing rapidly in revenue while at the same time improving student outcomes in low-income schools. Jane said, "Ross, I have 2 pockets. In my business pocket, I make as much money as I can. Once I have enough to provide for my family, I give generously from my philanthropy pocket." Which pocket are you asking me about here? The blind spot. We artificially separate our jobs and our careers from our values. In this book, I'll argue that when we integrate what we do with why we do it, we get better results. As one example, in 2015 and 2016, Wharton and Cambridge Associates released separate studies that illustrated how, when investors integrate financial returns with a broader social or environmental purpose, the financial returns were as good as, or in some cases better than, those of traditional investment firms. The innovation economy hasn't learned this lesson. We too often invest in the ideas we think we can flip quickly, rather than the most important ones. Silicon Valley startups, almost to the point of parody, often talk about how they are changing the world. Often, however, they disappoint. For example, in November 2016, the Silicon Valley startup June debuted a $1,500 countertop oven after raising $30 million in venture capital. The toaster didn't work. Automated yet distracting, boastful yet mediocre, confident yet wrong, read Fast Company journalist Mark Wilson's review, highlighting the toaster as everything that's wrong with Silicon Valley. By focusing on $1,500 toasters, the innovation economy is giving short shrift to entire untapped industries, from healthcare to education to energy. But as I'll show in the second section, a growing movement of illuminators are lighting up our blind spots. How we invest matters just as much as what we invest in. The venture mindset, a desire to bet on big ideas and to create solutions to problems you see, even if it involves some personal risk, is a worthy one. Venture capital has given us transformative companies such as Apple and Google. Many of these companies allow you to improve your life. You can get a fair interest rate loan if you've been using payday lenders, Lend Up, buy more affordable eyeglasses, Warby Parker, and make your home more energy efficient, Nest. And venture philanthropy, applying the venture capital mindset to nonprofits, has given us leading social innovations in microfinance and education reform. But venture capital's blind spots are causing us to miss out on too many innovative ideas, and this isn't good for anybody. When, in January 2016, I reviewed the industries of over 150 unicorn companies, I found that only 15% of the enterprises were solving problems in the top 6 areas that the majority of the world's population spends its budget on: food, health, energy, agriculture, financial services, and housing. I wrote this book because I'm worried. And I'm baffled. I'm worried that only 15% of our billion-dollar innovations are solving the biggest problems people face in the real world, and that the resources we're putting into new ideas are concentrated among so few people in so few places. As we'll see in the first chapter, our blind spots are causing the death of what we know as the American dream, and preventing many other great ideas around the world from having a chance to begin with. And I'm baffled that the American dream seems to have been confused with the Silicon Valley dream, which means that more people don't see these opportunities outside the mainstream. This book comes from the perspective of someone who is inside the system. I'm a white guy who was born in the United States, went to good schools, and was lucky to have a family who had the time and resources to support me. I have had a lot of built-in advantages in the free market. While I've worked hard and am proud of my success, I am aware and grateful that I've never had a shortage of opportunities. But having participated in this system as an investor and an entrepreneur, I see that the status quo doesn't always allocate resources to the best and the brightest. Instead, the ones who are closest to capital and know the right people go to the front of the line. In the coming chapters, I'll identify when and why this happens and who is making progress solving the problem. This book will first explain the blind spots that cause the dysfunction in our innovation system. Second, highlight an emerging group of people who are thinking about how to illuminate these blind spots. And third, outline some steps you can take in your own life to become aware of these blind spots and make a difference. Finally, I'll explore what it means to build an ecosystem and what all this means for the American dream. We're at an inflection point in our society. The people who make decisions over which problems we're going to solve are often disconnected from the problems that matter the most. Instead of solving the biggest problems of the day, we're putting billions of dollars into how to make mobile advertising and clickbait news more effective, and nudging people to buy more stuff. But there's reason for optimism. If we're aware of our blind spots, we can break bad habits and create new ways of investing. And there are already people building a movement of how to innovate better. This movement revolutionizes entrepreneurship, but more broadly, any innovation, by giving anyone with a great idea a better chance. This movement will actually change the world. Join me in the journey. Part 1. The Innovation Blind Spot. Chapter 1. What Happened to the American Dream? To me, the American dream is being able to follow your own personal calling. To be able to do what you want to do is incredible freedom. Maya Lin. I have spent my life judging the distance between American reality and the American dream. Bruce Springsteen. The 2016 United States presidential election revealed a massive blind spot in our society and caught most people completely by surprise. Fortune 500 leaders in Armani suits and Hermes ties, tech CEOs in company T-shirts, academics, and the political and media elite coalesced nearly unanimously around Hillary Clinton's candidacy. Virtually every poll and computer forecast predicted Secretary Clinton's victory. When Donald Trump won the majority of states and the presidency, the public dialogue in many parts of the country revolved around one question: how could we have missed this? The election illustrates one basic truth that no poll can capture in full. Many people feel that the basic social contract of the American dream, if you have a great idea, solve problems, and work hard, you'll be successful, is not true in an ever-globalizing world. This contract is not working for them. While no single lens can ever capture the commotion of a country as large or an economy as dynamic as the United States, entrepreneurship is a particularly useful lens, and one that I hope will resonate with many listeners, even those who are not in the business of building, funding, or supporting startups. Entrepreneurship represents the American dream distilled. Anyone with a vision for their business, their family, their community, their country should have a fair shot at success on the merits of that vision and that vision alone. I'll explore how we're living up to that standard through stories of entrepreneurs you know, and also stories of those you may not know yet. Entrepreneurship in Crisis. As AOL co-founder Steve Case likes to say, America itself was once a startup, 250 years ago. Throughout American history, entrepreneurs from Ben Franklin to Mark Zuckerberg have made the country a world leader through their tremendous visions. Entrepreneurs also build the future of our economy. Our economy's dynamic nature has always depended on what economist Joseph Schumpeter called creative destruction. Firms that fail to provide value die. Better ideas take their place. A 2015 report by the Kauffman Foundation showed that nearly 100% of net new jobs in America are created by firms that are less than 5 years old. In the long run, startups create all our new jobs. But there's a problem. Entrepreneurship is in crisis. In most places in the United States, entrepreneurs aren't succeeding. It has never been better to be a big company in America. In 2016, there were more big companies.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?